Great.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Articulate Thursday. I'm your host, the mild-mannered community development specialist, Nabil Rahman. Always happy to be joined by the wonderful Tanya. Tanya, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We have a special guest today. Nabil, do you want to give some introductions?
Yes, we have a special guest today from across the pond, as they say. We Articulate Thursdays have truly gone global. We have been blessed to be in the presence of Alia, who is an artist and an activist, and I think my intro will not do it justice. So Alia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, the wonderful things that you've been doing, and we can start the conversations around social justice that I think is so important to have.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. First of all, I would just like to thank you both for giving me the opportunity to come here and just talk about this. I'm really grateful to be a part of it. I think it's beautiful and it's such an amazing job what you guys are doing. Okay, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. My mom is Austrian from Vienna. My dad is American from St. Louis, and at some point in their lives, they migrated to Saudi Arabia, and we were all born and raised, me and my siblings, in Saudi Arabia. So it was a very interesting upbringing that I had. It was sort of very, how do you say that, multicultural. I speak both Arabic and English at the same time, so I'm really happy that my family gave me the opportunity to just like be around so many different cultures, a little bit of a European background as well as an American background, Arabic background. So it definitely helped me to develop as a person in so many ways. Also, my mom is an artist, so I suppose that that's how I got the genetic, like artistic touch there. So thanks to her for that as well. And I've been an artist all of my life, so I try very hard to make my art relatable to everyone. Um, Culturally speaking, to all ages. I wanted to be inviting. I wanted to feel empowering at the same time, just in a way where people they just open up and feel like questioning the art itself, but at the same time where you find answers. A lot of times we're soul searching and we don't even know that we're soul searching, and sometimes just observing a massive piece of art or something beautiful, it just answers a lot of questions that you were struggling with yourself. So for me, that's my goal sometimes with my art, and I
Awesome.
love myself.
Aliyah, I think we have something in common in that I too was born in Saudi Arabia, actually.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
impressive.
yeah. So I think
Whereabouts in Saudi Arabia were you born?
I was born in Jeddah,
Oh,
Saudi Arabia.
mashallah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really
It is.
nearby to where I was born. I was born in Medina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Very familiar with
neighbors.
neighbors. That's right.
But I
So
did spend a lot of time in Jeddah. Like I moved to Jeddah and then I spent about maybe 5 years there, 4 or 5 years there.
wow. Okay. I know
Yeah,
Jeddah was like sort of the hub of like, where people,
it
Jeddah
was.
and Riyadh. So yeah,
It
spent
was.
12 good years there and then came to Canada. But all great artists. We can see greatness in sort of some artists from Saudi Arabia, I guess, right?
Definitely.
Um,
Sure.
awesome. Cool. So, Aaliyah, I
Such a
know
small world.
it is a small world. It is a small world.
And I will add to that, my connection is that my mother is Austrian and she was born in Austria, and my cousins, a lot of my first cousins live in Vienna. So
Wow, this
we are
is a
all
really
connected.
small world. A really small, it's getting smaller and smaller. But this is
Right.
the thing that makes it so amazing is that like I literally can relate to everyone and anyone. Like but that's the thing with being just a person. You will always find something relatable, I think. If you search and you take the time to sit down with someone and talk to them, you will always find common ground. All you need to do is talk. Conversation, communication is the key. So it's like, even if you tend to look at someone and you think to yourself, oh, they don't seem like they have the same background, you guys are all the way in Canada, and I was born in Saudi Arabia, and we still found some common ground, you know? So communication is definitely key, which is another thing that I try to make sure that it's in my art as well, just to be able to talk and relate to other people, because it's so important.
Right.
I'm so surprised at the same time. It's really, really amazing.
Right. They say 6 degrees of separation, right? Like somehow you
Yeah,
find a way to
yeah,
connect. Aaliyah, I wanted to get your thoughts on just, the idea of social justice as we move forward.
great.
And obviously with everything that's happening around the news, as it relates to anti-Black racism,
Yeah,
social injustice, in Canada, there's Indigenous rights that are often overlooked, visible minority rights. The Black community is overrepresented in so many categories of marginalization. And these are very difficult topics oftentimes, right? Because they're at the core of so many different things. And I
sure.
know that art can be a medium that is
Definitely,
often used by artists, but it's often used to portray difficult topics in ways in which can be more palatable and can be more understood by the masses. And
definitely.
so I would just like to ask you of your experience with how do you utilize your art to speak to the audience and to speak to certain social justice related issues, and what does that mean for you?
For me, one thing that I find that is really amazing about art is that it's a language that everyone speaks, that everyone can sit down and find something relatable in the art that you put out there, whether it's abstract, whether it's classical, whether whatever genre of art it is. I think that everyone can find something that they can, a little piece of it that they can relate to in some way. And in terms of social justice, I feel like if you're relaying a message in your art and you really put your heart and soul into it, for sure it's going to reach people in some way, shape, or form. But what's beautiful about it is that it's not it's putting the message out there, and it's not putting the message out there with force. It's just for you to accept it. All you have to do is accept it in with an open heart, you know. So for me, I always try to adjust to address these issues as subtly as possible. So for example, Angela Davis, she was a very, very well-known activist, as well as a member of the Black Panthers. And just by putting her image out there, what I like to do is I don't like to talk too much about the character themselves. I like for people to just go and research. Research as if you're reading a book, as if you want to find something interesting to explore, you know? That's what life is about. Life is about exploring and discovering. So picking up on a topic and diving into it is the best way for you to broaden your horizon and to come to understand different cultures and the struggles of these cultures also. So for me, like I could talk all day long about Angela Davis, to be honest, and about all the things that she's done throughout history, and that is she's still doing currently. But I would rather people like, I'm sure everyone all knows her pretty well, but for those that don't know her well enough, research, read, try as best as you can to educate your children. I mean, history is something that is so important, especially Black history. And unfortunately, Black history, most of the time, it's just being repeated constantly, you know? So by researching and by digging deeper into it, you can also see how you can become an advocate, how you can help, what forms of social justice should be put out there. How exactly can you support the cause in a subtle way? It doesn't mean that you have to go out and march. You don't have to make any posters. You don't have to go outside and be part of the marching band if you feel that's too much for you. Researching, sitting down, acknowledging that there is an issue, that's already a major step, you know, that's already doing a really, really big part. Just acknowledging that there's something out there that needs to be corrected within a very large group of people that have been suffering for decades, you know, and that are very vocal about it. People have been very vocal about it. I mean, people at the African American community, I think they've done all they can do. They've spoken about it, preached about it, posted about it. Now, I think in this day and age, the most important thing is to try and see how can you become an advocate? What is the best shape? What is the best way you can become part of the movement? Like I said, it can be subtle. It could be having little conversations with your kid at the dinner table, just about who are their friends? What kind of friends do they have? Who do they socialize with, you know? And then slowly if they don't socialize with someone, because it's so easy for us to get stuck in this bubble, in this tiny little niche where we feel comfortable and we don't really go outside of it, if you know what I mean, you know? We're kind of afraid of being in uncomfortable environments, so we tend to stick to what's familiar to us rather than branch out and get to know different cultures, be part of different conversations, because it's only natural that we want to be in our comfortable environment. But I think it's just so important to put yourself out there in uncomfortable situations, get to know different people that are from different races, especially from like the Black community. That way, just socializing will broaden your horizon and will give you a better understanding of the struggles, or just like seeing cultural differences. That also makes a really big difference, you know? But for me, in terms of my art, back to the art part of it, yeah, I look for Black icons that I feel were very, very influential. And I just encourage people to research as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and then use that information.
That's really awesome, and I love how you mentioned that the idea is to be curious
Yes,
and to be inquisitive, um,
definitely.
and approaching things from the lens of learning, right? When we tend to be, like you mentioned, put in our bubble of familiarity,
Yeah,
and oftentimes in times of stress or distress, we
yeah,
tend to cocoon ourselves. But the idea is in those moments, families, children, young families in particular need to have conversations, and art can be such an awesome medium, right? Like
definitely,
you see something that is appealing to you, and just inquire, be more curious about it, go
definitely,
research, and see the things we
definitely.
have in common, right? Three of us are
And
just
it's
having a conversation.
okay to ask questions. Like there's a lot of times we feel like, okay, I don't want to sound stupid, I don't want to sound offensive, I don't want to sound ignorant. But then how are you going to learn unless you make mistakes, right? Isn't that the whole point of learning, is making mistakes and make it, unfortunately, that's the only way of learning. You make 100 mistakes and then you get one right. And that one right is what makes it all better. You know what I mean? That one right thing that you did, it's about the journey at the end of the day. It's not about you getting it right from the get-go. It's about you making mistakes and then eventually reaching the point where you're like, okay, now I finally got it. I understand, you know? But you have to put yourself out there, unfortunately. And nobody can do that for you. You have to do it yourself. But it's a lesson learned and it's a beautiful journey. That's another thing that people need to understand, that it is a beautiful journey at the end of the day. Discover, like you just said, discovering and just being inquisitive, trying to learn knowledge, accepting knowledge from whoever it comes from, you know, listening to people, just listening, honestly.
Right. I love this piece that you have as well, Aaliyah. Do you want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to sort of get this artwork?
So this one was mainly about the marches that have been taking place in so many cities all over the world, and it was so funny how it was a domino effect. It basically started out in America after the George Floyd incident, and then slowly progressed to other cities. Which honestly, I myself, I didn't think that it was going to pick up like a forest fire like that, because usually it stays at the borders of the states. Like it'll happen in the states, it stays in the states, it's the problem of the states, you know, African Americans. But this spread everywhere, and this was just like, it was just amazing to see the whole world be so supportive of this issue, you know, and for everyone at one point to stand still and say, yes, we acknowledge that there is a problem, because this was sort of like the year of protests. I mean, there has been so many marches. There has been, I think, in 2017 we had Women's March. You have the LGBTQ also marching constantly. You have so many marginalized groups that are out there that are looking for justice. So it was so like amazing to see everyone put down their posters and join together for just one cause, and to put that cause above all. And finally people were coming to this idea that, okay, by saying Black Lives Matter, we are actually helping all lives. We're helping everyone. We're helping the LGBTQ, we're helping females, we're helping feminists, we're helping everyone, because we're focusing on a humanitarian issue here, because this has been going on for generations. And if we can help one group get past this like, I don't know, just all of this injustice that has been going on for generations and generations, then it'll also cause a domino effect where every other group will get justice as well. But it has to start somewhere, right? I mean,
Right.
not every group can get justice at the same time. That's a little impossible. So where do we start from? So I thought that it was just amazing to see how many advocates, how many people just rushed out on the streets to help, you know? So, and then the message here for me was, the most important part was to don't stop talking about it, because a lot of times it gets big and loud, and then all of a sudden it flatlines. And it's like, okay, it was a hype for a couple of months and now it's over, you know? So the
Right.
most important thing is that we still talk about it and have discussions about it, no matter what happens. Just and if you see it happening around you, which it does happen, sometimes you do see it happen where somebody is in an awkward situation, or where somebody is being put in an uncomfortable situation. Most of the times it's Black people, unfortunately, that are, yeah, whether you're in the supermarket or you're walking down the street and you see someone being put in an awkward situation, then it's important for you to try and speak up. If you can speak up, speak up. I know that's a tough one. And a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to overstep. I don't want to get involved. But if you do have the courage to put yourself out there, then that's also very, very beneficial.
Right. Collective solidarity, right? Like that's what it's
Yes,
all about. The
100%.
and
100.
I think to your point, one of the things that art helps you explore is that sometimes you can get lost in art itself, right? Like so much of what meaning you find of art is within the art itself. And so I read this quote. It's like you can find your significance by realizing your insignificance, right? And so
Definitely.
so as a community, sometimes when we are collectively together in a cause where it's just beyond me, I might
Definitely.
not be Black, but I'm part of a community, and
For
I need to
sure.
lose my ego into the struggles of a greater collective. And if I do
Yes.
that, I'll truly actually find myself. And I think that's the
100%.
that's the process of learning that you were talking about, of being curious, of just inquiring more, learning more. Like we
Definitely.
three of us are like, who would have known there's a connection between the three of us, right? Unless we were willing to
For
learn and
sure.
to lose ourselves a little bit in the conversation that we're having. So Tanya, any
Exactly.
thoughts that you have regarding this?
Yeah, well, I think what I really like about our conversation today is that it is about a journey. It's not about a beginning and an end. It's about continuing the conversation. And it's also not about one person necessarily, that there are all these voices that are shaping what's happening right now, and that it could be a voice from someone like a store owner versus a celebrity versus a student. So I think that's where it becomes quite powerful for me, that everyone is inspired or adding to the conversation. And that, I always go with the point of, you put your best intentions forward, and you do the best that you can. You may not always get the result you want, but you try your best.
For sure. For sure.
Awesome.
100%. Just a little bit of effort goes such a long way. Just a little bit, It doesn't, and like I said, you don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to be a hero. You don't have to wave a flag around. But if you acknowledge it, that's already the first step. That's already doing a major part. And then you just take it gradually, step by step. Everything comes with I don't know, it's like a ladder. You just have to climb it at ease, you know, at your own pace. We all have our own pace. So that's also a thing.
Right. And I think if for young families watching, Aaliyah, that's a really good point in that the idea is to have the conversations, to go at the pace that you want to go at, but to not avoid it, right? Because by avoiding it, we're not acknowledging it. And we cannot advocate or ask for change if we cannot even acknowledge that a challenge or a problem exists, right? So sometimes things seems overwhelming. Art is a great way to start those conversations. So for anybody watching, have those conversations, start to inquire and be inquisitive into what art represents, and especially arts that promote social justice, arts that promotes just how similar we are in our differences, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing, only if you're willing to explore that a little bit further. So Leah, just a little bit more of your artwork, because I know there's tons of creativity and talent here. So just
Thank
speak to
you.
some of the wonderful artworks that you wanted to share with people. This resonated with me. I would love if you were to share with people what this means, what this artwork meant for you as you were creating it.
This one is a combination, a representation of Mother Earth and also the Black woman and how much she has to struggle with. I know that like Black Lives Matter in general, but also Black women do have a major part to play here, because it's like I don't want to say their struggle is more. I don't want to put a less or more on it, but it's definitely a different kind of struggle, I would say, because you're female and you're Black at the same time. So that is a bit more, I would say, intense, I would say. But yeah, for me, this one, I just wanted to portray the African American woman as a warrior, as someone that uplifts her community, someone that's always very supportive, someone that's there when you need her to be there. And I know, but the thing is, like a lot of times we like to say that, okay, Black women are strong, they're strong, they can put up with everything. And that can be kind of difficult to be seen constantly as strong. You know, on some days you don't feel like being strong. On some days you want to sit back and you want to let somebody else do the work for you, which is why another reason why it's very important to have advocates. It's very important to have that sense of community. So that's also what's going on here, is the sense of community, the sense of support, you know, the sense of feeling that you have a backbone, that you yourself personally, you have a backbone as an individual, but you also have a community to lean back on. You know, if you ever need a timeout yourself, which everyone does need, everyone needs a timeout to step back and tell themselves, like, today I had a rough day. Today was really hard for me out there. Today, I had a lot of looks. I had difficulty at work. I had people telling me that my hair isn't professional. I had people touching my hair today. So there's all these little things that, you know, a lot of times you don't want to be rude. You don't want to say anything. You just want to keep it to yourself. You want to keep it quiet. But then you get home and it's hard. You know, it's hard thinking about all of the things. Those are just minor things that I'm talking about. Of course, there's things that are on a much graver scale, but let's just keep it there for now. But yeah, but it's very important to have, because she uplifts the community, but she also needs her community by her side at the same time, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Tanya, any thoughts regarding this wonderful
Well,
artwork?
I mean, this is a very uh, this is a great artwork, and the eyes are intense, and you know it's frontal, so it's like staring right at me, and but I also think about like where we come from and where we're going with an image like this, that you know oftentimes we do have to think about the generations before us and the generations that are about to come, so that our position right now as people, as living people, is to take all of this in and apply it to what we're doing now.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
And you could see how, like, once we start to learn about different cultures, the overlaps, right? Like, I think the 7 generations before and the 7 generations after, it's a very prominent theme in our understanding of indigenous knowledge.
Of
Can be
course.
applied to so many different parts it can be applied to anybody. And you know, especially for me, like I see that, like you know, where there's so many, like she stands alone, but she is thinking of everybody else, right? Like
Yeah.
that to me
Yeah.
is so powerful, and it's almost like this look of like fearlessness
Yeah.
in her eyes, but at the same time there's the vulnerability of holding on to everything that a person of color has to experience, a woman has to experience.
For
um,
sure.
and
For
you know, if
sure.
anything that we can do to alleviate some of that for her, it's almost
Yeah.
like when I look at those eyes, I'm like, I have no, like I have to do something, I have to do my part, I have to have those conversations, I have to be curious, I have to advocate, I have to be aware. And you know, it's, so it's powerful. So thank you for you know, letting us have that reflection,
Thank
Aaliyah.
you.
That's it's really well done. Some more artwork. Maybe speak to this is a little bit different in terms of its. Again, I'm not an artist or anything, so maybe Tanya can appreciate this or explore this more. But what's the inspiration behind artwork that's a little different from the ones that we've been seeing?
This one is a bit more colorful, a bit more joyful. This is about just being pleasant, just admiring different cultures and taking the opportunity to just, I don't know, to just be happy, you know, at the same time. Happiness is so important, but happiness is different for each and every single one of us, you know. So every one of us, we portray happiness in our own way. So I think that when you admire different cultures and you dive deep into it, you might experience happiness through the eyes of someone else, you know, which is a totally different experience. I don't know if that makes any sense, but sometimes when you come up with some sort of artwork and you try to describe it, you only know the feeling that you had when you were, you know, making it, but you can't really describe it word for word. And this is one of those. All I can tell you is that if you experience a culture, you'll experience a different kind of happiness. So sometimes if you're feeling gloomy or if you're feeling down, why do we always want to say to ourselves, oh, I want to travel? Or I want to go here? Or it's because you want to dip outside of your comfort zone and go into someone else's comfort zone and experience their level of happiness. So that's why I wanted to make it a little bit colorful, vibrant, have a little bit of an African vibe to it, as well as a Caribbean vibe, just so people can feel like happiness. It's I don't know, you can find it all over the world, you know, not just where you are. So what, since you're experiencing that happiness in different cultures, is important not just to take the good. You have to see also the struggle, and you have to see also the bad, and you have to want to preserve that happiness within other cultures as well, you know? So I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely, right. The idea
Yes, that's great.
of inquiring and
Okay, so
getting
you get
lost.
my point, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
Yeah,
what's
because a lot of times, like people will travel, take pictures, and experience it as like, okay, this was just my vacation, and come back home and not have learned anything, not have taken back anything important from the culture except, oh yeah, the food was good. Oh yeah, the I went to a museum. Okay, but what did you learn from that culture? What did you understand from that culture? What did you take back from that culture? Did you understand how they think, how they relate to each other, what it is to be on that side of the world? Do you know what I mean, kind of?
yeah,
Or
I
it was
think
just an experience? Because sometimes we travel just for the experience, but we don't learn anything. So then what's the experience?
right. I think it depends on how much you want to put yourself at the center of your experience with other people, or put other people in the center of your experience with them, right? And
Exactly.
so the idea is to be like, sometimes community first can help you be more aware of your own self, and sometimes
Mhm.
artwork can help you do that, right? Just
For
with the
sure.
ability to look at it for more than what it is, allows, you know,
Yes.
communities to
Yeah.
be represented in it, and also for you to reflect on the learnings that you have, right? I oftentimes think of and maybe this relates to me more than others, but think of food, right? Like if I
No.
were to make food, and you were to eat the food that I make, and I might think this is amazing. You know, in order for you to truly appreciate the flavors of what I'm making, you have to understand the history of that food in that specific
Exactly.
region, right? And unless you do that, You know, you might always be craving like McDonald's fries, for example, but maybe, you
For
know, a
sure.
goulash soup is something that, you know, you can really appreciate once you know the history behind it, once you understand
For
what it means to that
sure.
community, right? So
For sure.
that's how I understood it, at least.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. That's 100% how it's supposed to be seen. 100%.
Perfect. And so we just we're in the interest of time. I just want to highlight a few more of your artwork, Aaliyah. And before we wrap it up, um, any last thoughts that you have around this very intense, complicated, convoluted topic, but one that cannot be ignored, one that should not be ignored, and in your artwork. So what last steps advice would you want to give to the people watching and to us?
I would definitely stick to what I started out with, and that is to educate your children. Like I said, you can have a story time where you pick a historical African American icon here and there, someone influential that is not typically from the same race. Just educate them about everyone and just talk. Talk things over, speak, communicate. It is so important, and it's like one of the strongest tools that you can ever have right now. I mean, with social media, all these social media platforms that we have around, it is so easy to just start up a conversation and just let loose and just start talking. And don't worry about feeling uncomfortable, or don't worry about asking the wrong questions. Ask as many wrong questions as long as you take back something from the conversation. And if there's a difference of opinion, that's fine. We all have differences of opinion. We all have different thumbprints also. Like every single one of us, we're not all cut from the same cloth. So I'm not going to agree with you with everything, but that's also okay. That's a very big learning step. And it's also a beautiful thing, because if we both all agree on the same thing, then also we're not going to learn anything. But if you disagree with me, then I can research that as well and come to see your point of view. What is it about you that I'm disagreeing with? Why am I disagreeing with you? What is it that I'm missing? You know, what is it that it's very important not to focus in on the other person and say, oh, okay, well, that person has a totally different understanding of things than I do. Okay, yeah, why? Why is that? Ask yourself questions constantly. Dig deeper and you'll find the answers. So for me, conversation is definitely key.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more, right? Just be willing to have that conversation. Don't ignore it, right? I think we're seeing the devastating consequences of what happens when we
Yeah,
do
yes,
ignore it. And it's not like it's just happening today. The consequences are not being experienced just today. It's been happening for a long time, but it's just now people are willing to lend an ear to listen. And I think we would be doing, it would be greatly unfair to ourselves and to the greater community if we did not explore that conversations as families, as you know, within a circle of friends, and just have conversations, right? Don't worry
for
about the end
sure,
goal, but just be willing to learn, just be willing to explore, and
for
just be
sure.
willing to have that collective solidarity.
Yeah.
So, Aaliyah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
No
Really.
Thank
worries.
you.
Tanya, any thoughts from your end before we wrap it up?
Well, I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I do also agree with Aaliyah with like resources, like ask questions. And if you feel like you don't have enough information, we have so many resources
For sure.
that are available to us from a whole history of great artists that have written great books and made beautiful artwork to contemporary artists. So there's lots of resources. Go to your local library, ask questions, go to your local gallery.
For
There's
sure,
lots of
definitely.
ways to find information and ask questions. Don't accept everything as the final.
Right. What I think Tanya is saying is don't accept everything for what the face, you know, at face value, right? Sometimes the more you inquire, the more you learn. Sorry, Tanya, you cut off there for a second, but I think I tried to guess what you were gonna say, and I think I might have nailed it. So
Yeah, you sounded like you nailed it.
Nailed it.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Awesome. So thank you guys. Thank you for watching. This is
Thank
Articulate
you
Thursdays.
so
Stay
much
safe.
for having me. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed my time. And yeah, I hope to see you guys again soon, hopefully.
Yes, we hope to have you back, Alia. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
It's so nice meeting you guys.